You never truly understand someone through what they say, but through the things they never think you will see. Picture this paradox for a moment. Someone speaks eloquently about kindness while holding the door open for a stranger, their words flowing like honey. But watch their hand closely, and you will notice it clenches tight, knuckles turning white, when someone accidentally inconveniences them in the parking lot 30 seconds later. Just 5 behaviors, sometimes revealed in 5 seconds or less, are enough to completely unmask anyone, stripping away the carefully constructed persona they present to the world and revealing the raw truth underneath. Think back to those moments we have all experienced, those instances that leave a strange taste in your mouth, a feeling you cannot quite shake. Someone changes their entire demeanor the instant they realize you no longer hold value for them, their warmth evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. A person speaks with a gentle, measured voice, but their eyes tell a completely different story, cold and impatient, darting away as if your presence itself is an inconvenience they must endure. Have you ever encountered someone who, in just one fleeting moment, revealed their true nature so clearly that you could not unsee it, no matter how much you wanted to believe the version of themselves they had sold you? Many people believe it takes months, even years, to truly know someone. We tell ourselves that character reveals itself slowly, that understanding another human being requires patience and accumulated experience. But that is not accurate at all. Time does not help you understand someone's essence. Only the right moment allows you to see through them completely, like a flash of lightning illuminating a landscape you thought you knew. Consider this 5-second example that happened in an office I once worked in. A manager speaks warmly with you about work-life balance and the importance of supporting junior staff, nodding along to everything you say, but then furrows their brow and sighs with visible, almost theatrical annoyance when a young employee approaches with a question just moments later. That single moment, that involuntary reaction when they thought you were not paying close attention, tells you more than 1,000 polished words in a performance review ever could. Let me introduce you to 5 behaviors, each accompanied by a story that illustrates how character reveals itself in the smallest, most overlooked actions. These are not grand betrayals or dramatic confrontations. These are the tiny cracks in the facade that most people miss because they are looking for bigger signs, waiting for some obvious red flag to wave itself in front of their faces. The first behavior is how they treat people who bring them no benefit, no advancement, no social currency. A friend of mine, someone I had known since college, once spoke like an absolute hero when addressing his boss at a company dinner, praising the organization's values and commitment to respect. But less than an hour later, he shouted at a server, his face contorted with rage, simply because a dish arrived 2 minutes late during the restaurant's busiest hour. The disconnect between these two interactions was not subtle. It was a complete transformation, as if 2 entirely different people inhabited the same body, one diplomatic and charming, the other cruel and entitled. When someone believes their treatment of others carries no consequences, when they think nobody who matters is watching or caring, they drop their mask without even realizing it. The waiter could not affect his promotion or his reputation in circles he cared about, so he saw absolutely no reason to extend basic courtesy or human decency. That is not a moment of weakness or a bad day that everyone has occasionally. That is character on full display, unfiltered and honest in its ugliness. The second behavior is their reaction when they are denied something or lose control, even in the most minor situations. A colleague had his suggestion rejected during a meeting. Nothing major, just a small idea about reorganizing the filing system that the team decided would not work for various practical reasons. His response was immediate and revealing in ways that made everyone uncomfortable. He went completely silent, not the contemplative silence of someone processing feedback. but the cold silence of someone whose ego had been punctured. His warmth evaporated into icy withdrawal, his body language closing off entirely. He avoided the entire team for days afterward, eating lunch alone, leaving meetings early, responding to emails with single-word answers that dripped with passive hostility. This was not about the idea itself, which he had admitted was just a passing thought. This was about his fundamental inability to handle the smallest challenge to his ego, to accept that his perspective was not automatically correct or valued above all others. When people face rejection, even trivial rejection that should roll off anyone's shoulders, their authentic self emerges from behind the curtain. Some people accept it with grace and curiosity, asking questions, seeking to understand, growing from the experience. Others crumble or retaliate, revealing how fragile their composure truly is, how much energy they expend every single day maintaining an image of confidence and control. The reaction is rarely proportional to the event itself. It is proportional to their character, to how they see themselves in relation to the world around them. The third behavior is their attitude when they think nobody is watching. Those unguarded moments that reveal more truth than 100 planned interactions. An employee at a retail store smiled warmly at customers, her professionalism absolutely impeccable throughout every interaction I witnessed. She remembered regular customers' names, asked about their families, offered genuine-seeming advice about products. But I happened to be browsing a back aisle when a customer turned away after a transaction, and the transformation was instantaneous and shocking. Her face twisted with contempt, features contorting into something almost unrecognizable, and she muttered curses under her breath, vicious assessments of the customer's intelligence and appearance. The transformation happened so quickly that someone standing nearby might question what they just witnessed, might convince themselves they imagined it. This behavior matters enormously because it reveals the effort required to maintain the facade, the constant energy expenditure needed to perform a version of yourself that contradicts your actual feelings and beliefs. Authentic kindness does not disappear when the audience leaves the room. Performed kindness does, immediately and completely. When someone believes they are unobserved, when they think the performance can pause for a moment, the gap between their public persona and private reality becomes undeniable. A chasm so wide you could fall into it and never climb back out. The fourth behavior is how they speak about people who are not present, particularly people they have no reason to tear down. One acquaintance always praised you to your face, highlighting your achievements with enthusiasm, supporting your ideas publicly in meetings and social situations, making you feel valued and appreciated. But multiple people mentioned to me, independently and with obvious discomfort, that the moment you left the room, he diminished your contributions to impress others, reframing your ideas as obvious or derivative, suggesting your success was primarily luck or circumstance rather than skill or effort. He needed to be the most impressive person in any space, and that required making everyone else smaller, reducing them to supporting characters in the movie of his life. This pattern was not occasional or context-dependent, not the result of competition or specific tensions. It was his default mode of operation, as automatic as breathing. People who talk poorly about others in their absence will eventually, inevitably, do the same to you. The loyalty they perform is situational, extended only when you can witness it, when it serves their immediate needs. True character shows itself in consistency, in how someone speaks about you, whether you are present or gone, whether building you up benefits them in that specific moment or not. The fifth behavior is their level of honesty in small details, the tiny lies that seem inconsequential but paint a larger picture. A business partner said he was only 2 minutes late to a meeting, brushing it off casually as if precision did not matter, as if everyone should simply accept his explanation without question. Security footage, which he clearly forgot existed or assumed nobody would bother checking, revealed he arrived 12 minutes late and had stopped for coffee on the way, a deliberate choice rather than an unavoidable delay. This was not about the lateness itself. People run late sometimes due to traffic, emergencies, legitimate unexpected circumstances, and that is completely understandable as part of normal human life. This was about the automatic dishonesty, the reflexive lie about something minor and easily verifiable. He lied when telling the truth would have cost him almost nothing, when a simple apology would have resolved everything. If someone lies when honesty is easy and the stakes are non-existent, imagine what they will do when circumstances are actually challenging, when truth becomes genuinely inconvenient or costly. Small dishonesty is not a small problem that you should overlook or rationalize away. It is a preview of larger betrayals, a window into how their mind works when they think they can get away with something. Now consider the mental cost of ignoring these 5 signs, the real price you pay in time, emotional energy, and opportunities lost. By dismissing what you observe, telling yourself you are overthinking or being unfair, you might spend 1 year loving the wrong person, investing your heart and future in someone whose character will eventually break both. You might spend 6 months working with an unreliable partner, building a business or project on a foundation that will crumble when you need it most. You might spend 3 years maintaining a friendship where you constantly suffer losses, giving more than you receive, feeling drained after every interaction, but convincing yourself that is just how friendships work. You are not hurt because you trusted incorrectly or made an innocent mistake in judgment. You are hurt because you ignored what you saw from the beginning, because you explained away the warning signs that your instincts clearly recognized. The signs were there, persistent and clear, appearing over and over in slightly different forms. But you convinced yourself they meant nothing, that you were being too sensitive, too judgmental, too harsh, too suspicious. But you were not any of those things. You were being observant, paying attention to reality instead of the story you wanted to believe. And then you second-guessed your own perception until you could no longer trust what your own eyes and experiences were telling you. Here is the larger paradox that governs human relationships and makes this pattern even more painful. Good people constantly blame themselves when they misjudge others. They wonder obsessively about what they missed, what they could have done differently, how they failed to see the truth sooner, whether something in their own behavior caused or contributed to the situation. They turn criticism inward, examining their own judgment and choices with brutal honesty. Bad people rarely recognize their own flaws or consider their impact on others. They move through relationships leaving damage and confusion behind them, never pausing to consider their role in the destruction, never questioning whether the common thread in all their failed relationships might be their own behavior. The second paradox is equally important and equally overlooked. Genuinely good people do not broadcast their goodness or virtue like a radio signal. They simply live it without performance or announcement, without needing recognition or applause for basic decency. Deceptive people work extremely hard to prove how good they are, constructing elaborate displays of virtue that collapse under the slightest pressure, like stage sets that look solid from the audience but are actually just painted cardboard. Understanding why we misjudge people so consistently requires examining 3 psychological traps that cloud our perception and override our better judgment. The first trap is the halo effect, where a strong first impression blinds us to contradicting evidence that should be obvious. Someone dresses impeccably, speaks confidently with perfect grammar and a firm handshake, shares our interests in books or sports or music, so we automatically assume they must be trustworthy in all areas of life. We let one positive quality illuminate everything else about them, creating a glow that hides their flaws and makes us ignore warning signs that would be immediately obvious if we were not dazzled by that initial impression. We essentially give them the benefit of every doubt, interpreting ambiguous behaviors in the most charitable light possible, building an image of who we think they are rather than observing who they actually reveal themselves to be. The second trap is projection, where we see what we want to see rather than what objectively exists in front of us. We are kind, so we assume others are kind, that everyone shares our basic values and approach to relationships. We are honest, so we assume others are honest, that they would never lie about small things because we would not lie about small things. We project our own character onto other people like a movie onto a blank screen, and then feel genuinely shocked when they behave according to their actual nature instead of the nature we assigned to them. We cannot imagine treating someone poorly for no reason, so we assume others cannot imagine it either, that any negative behavior must have an explanation or justification we are missing. The third trap is familiarity, where closeness actually reduces clarity instead of increasing it, the opposite of what we intuitively believe should happen. The more time we spend with someone, the more we normalize their behavior. Even when that behavior is harmful or disrespectful, we become blind to patterns that would alarm us immediately in a stranger, that would make us avoid someone we just met. If a stranger spoke to us the way a longtime friend sometimes does, we would recognize it as unacceptable and create distance. But because we have history, because we have invested time and emotion, because leaving feels like admitting failure, we adjust our standards downward, inch by inch, until we are accepting treatment we never imagined we would tolerate. Ask yourself this question with complete honesty. Are you currently in a relationship, whether romantic, professional, or friendship, where you have seen warning signs, but you keep telling yourself you are just being too sensitive, that you are the problem, that you need to be more understanding? The truly frightening part is not that someone treats you poorly, because poor treatment is at least clear and recognizable. The truly frightening part is when they make you doubt your own perception, when they convince you that your observations are wrong, that your instincts are flawed, that your concerns are overreactions or imagination. This is not accidental or unintentional. It is strategic, whether consciously or unconsciously employed. When you see all 5 behaviors clearly, when you can no longer deny the pattern or explain it away, you do not need to argue with them, to explain your reasoning, or to attempt fixing them through conversation or ultimatums. You only need to retreat in silence, creating distance without drama or detailed explanations. Retreating is not weakness, or giving up, or being unable to handle conflict. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that some people cannot be changed, only avoided, that your energy is better spent elsewhere. You do not owe anyone a detailed explanation for protecting yourself. You do not need to prove your case in some imaginary court or win an argument about their character. You simply need to create distance and redirect your energy toward people who actually deserve it, who enhance your life rather than draining it. Let me share a story that illustrates how these patterns reveal themselves with remarkable, almost mathematical consistency. A new employee joined a mid-sized technology company, immediately impressing everyone with his exceptional politeness, perfect punctuality, and respectful demeanor toward everyone from the CEO to the cleaning staff. He apologized frequently, even for minor things that did not require apology. He volunteered for additional work without being asked, staying late to help teammates with projects that were not his responsibility. He praised his colleagues generously in meetings, highlighting their contributions and deflecting credit from himself. Everyone agreed he was exceptional, exactly the kind of team member any organization would want, someone who seemed to embody the company's stated values. But small cracks began appearing in this perfect image, subtle at first, easy to dismiss individually. Security cameras captured him one evening, humiliating a cleaning staff member when he thought the office was empty. His voice raised, his face twisted with contempt that nobody had seen during normal business hours. He berated her for moving items on his desk while cleaning, calling her careless and stupid, threats about reporting her evident in his tone. In meetings, He spoke positively about teammates to their faces, but multiple people independently noticed him criticizing those same colleagues harshly as soon as they left the room, questioning their competence and commitment. During an important project, he made a significant error in the code that caused a system failure, but immediately blamed a junior employee, constructing an elaborate and convincing story about how the mistake originated elsewhere, complete with fabricated details about conversations that never happened. His manager, an observant person with decades of experience reading people, did not confront him immediately or react publicly to these reports. Instead, she simply watched carefully for one more week, paying close attention to moments when he thought nobody important was observing. And in that week, all 5 behaviors repeated themselves like a perfectly predictable map, like watching the same movie play out in different settings. The disrespect for service workers appeared again when he snapped at a delivery person. The two-faced communication continued as he praised someone in a morning meeting and criticized them to a different group that afternoon. The dishonesty about mistakes manifested when he claimed he sent an email he never actually sent, insisting the problem was with the email system rather than his memory. The shift in demeanor when he thought nobody important was watching appeared when he relaxed during lunch breaks, his mask slipping. And the cold reaction when his ideas faced any resistance showed itself when a colleague questioned his approach to a minor issue, his immediate withdrawal and subtle retaliation obvious to anyone paying attention. The manager realized something crucial through this observation. Character does not reveal itself once in a single dramatic moment. It repeats constantly, consistently, creating a pattern that becomes undeniable if you are willing to see it. The employee was eventually let go, not for any single incident that could be explained or justified, but for a pattern that made itself impossible to ignore through sheer consistency, through the way these behaviors appeared again and again across different contexts and situations. This framework is not about judging others harshly or approaching relationships with cynicism and suspicion, assuming the worst about everyone you meet. This is a protective layer for your emotions, your time, and your future. You are not reading people in some mystical or manipulative way. You are simply reading the signs they unconsciously leave behind, the breadcrumbs of their true character that they cannot help but drop. They cannot help it because pretending requires constant energy and attention. Human beings can control what they say with effort and intention, rehearsing responses and managing their words carefully, but they cannot fully control their unconscious reactions forever. Those split-second responses, the reflexive behaviors when stress or opportunity appears, reveal the truth that careful speech conceals. 3 philosophical principles underpin this entire approach to understanding human character. First, people can control what they say, but they cannot control their unconscious patterns forever. The mask slips eventually. It always slips, without exception. Not because people are inherently deceptive or evil, but because maintaining a false persona requires constant energy, vigilance, and self-awareness, and everyone eventually runs out of energy or becomes careless. The truth leaks out in moments of stress, fatigue, or perceived safety. Second, small behaviors are large truths. We often dismiss minor actions as meaningless, as insignificant data points that should not influence our overall assessment. But they are actually the most honest and reliable data available to us. Anyone can behave well during significant moments when they know they are being evaluated, when they understand that their response will be remembered and judged. Few people maintain their performance during insignificant moments when they believe nobody important is paying attention, when they think their actions carry no consequences. Third, words form the surface, but reflexes reveal essence. Listen to what people say, certainly, because words do matter. But watch what they do when they think it does not matter, when they believe their actions are invisible or inconsequential. The gap between those two things, between the carefully managed words and the unconscious actions, tells you everything you need to know about who they really are beneath the presentation. So here is what this means for your life moving forward, for how you evaluate people and protect yourself. You do not need 1 year to understand someone, to gather sufficient data about their character. You only need 5 moments and the awareness to recognize their significance when they appear. You need to trust what you observe rather than what you hope to see, rather than the story you want to believe about them. You need to give appropriate weight to patterns rather than dismissing them as isolated incidents that do not reflect their true nature. Think back to the 3 people who have hurt you most deeply in your life, who left the most significant scars on your heart or psyche. If you are honest with yourself, did these 5 behaviors appear from the very beginning? Did you see the signs but explain them away, minimize their importance, or blame yourself for noticing them? Did you tell yourself you were being unfair, that everyone deserves chances, that you should not judge people so quickly? The painful truth is that nobody can hide their true nature forever, no matter how skilled they are at impression management. The protective truth is that you can learn to recognize character quickly and accurately if you know what to watch for, if you give yourself permission to trust your observations. Character shows itself constantly in tiny moments, in the spaces between the words, in reactions that happen too quickly to be managed or controlled. The only question is whether you are willing to see it clearly and respond accordingly, whether you will trust yourself enough to act on what you observe, rather than waiting for proof so overwhelming that damage has already been done. If this perspective opens a new way of seeing people and relationships, leave a comment sharing your own experiences with these patterns. Have you encountered someone who revealed their character in a single telling moment? Did you trust what you saw, or did you second-guess yourself into ignoring it? Subscribe if you want weekly insights that help make life clearer, lighter, and less painful, that give you tools for navigating relationships with more wisdom and less unnecessary suffering. Not every relationship will hurt you, and many people are genuinely good and worthy of your trust. But the ones that do hurt you often announce themselves early through behaviors we choose to ignore. Your ability to observe accurately and act on what you observe determines how much unnecessary suffering you experience. Character shows itself constantly, in every interaction, every reaction, every choice. The only question is whether you are willing to see it and respond accordingly.